Would you please take roll?
Ms. Atkins?
Here.
Mr. Hendricks?
Here.
Mr. Houston?
Here.
Mrs. McDaniel? Here. Mr. Stoffer? Mr. Weilich?
Here.
Mrs. Sheffel?
Here. Can I get a motion to approve the March 1st, 2021 agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel? Yes. Mr. Weilich?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffel?
Yes. Commendation and good news.
Turn that over to Dave.
I do have a few things tonight for you. First of all, I thought I would start with an alumni spotlight. Some of you may know Kate Jackson. She graduated in 1995. Her mother is Paula Jackson, who was a secretary for us and a paraprofessional prior to that at Titan Hill. Kate is a coordinating producer for ESPN. And the links that I provided on the good news piece for tonight highlight some of the things she's done. She was the first woman producer to do the Indy 500, for example. She won with her team, won an Edgar R. Murrow Award. I did that wrong. An Edgar R. Murrow Award for outstanding journalism, not just sports journalism, but the competition for that particular piece was all of journalism. For a piece that they did on special education and the Olympics. It was phenomenal. So we got some great folks out there doing some great things from our community. So that was the first thing. And the second thing is recognition that one of our teachers this year has been picked as the Iowa Governor's Council STEM Teacher of the Year for Southwest Iowa, for our region. It's Nathan Van Zanti. He teaches 8th grade science at the middle school. Real nice Twitter article, did a little presentation at the middle school. He got a little cash in his pocket as well as cash in the school's pocket for being selected. And I thought I would play just, hopefully this works, just a short bit of a video that talks to Nathan's contribution, and you'll hear from the director of the Southwest Iowa Governor's Council, and you'll hear from one of our coaches and some of our students in the video. So I'm going to have to stop sharing for just a minute. Going to have to help me with this one, Josh, because I don't know how to stop it. There we go. And then I am going to share just a tab. It will be this tab.
I'm Deb Frazee, and I'm the Southwest Regional STEM Manager. I'm based at Southwestern Community College in Red Oak. And today I'm very honored to announce that Nathan Van Zanti, an 8th grade teacher at the Lewis Central Middle School, has been selected as the 2021 Iowa STEM Teacher Award recipient for our region. Mr. Van Zanti's classroom is a place where students are encouraged to take ownership of their learning, create and test their own solutions to real-world STEM problems. His lessons inspire his students to do more, helping them pursue the STEM subjects and projects they're passionate about. I met Mr. Van Zanti when he was a first-year teacher at the Southwest Valley Middle School in Villisca, and even then he was a shining star who really worked with and for his students to make them think and problem solve. I've also had the opportunity to partner with Mr. Z in 3 STEM externships in summer months, where for a 6-week period in the summer, he has worked in a non-teaching job to understand more about what goes on outside of a classroom. His employers were always glad to have him come and sad to see him leave, and I mean that with the greatest sincerity. Using a STEM Best grant, Mr. Van Zanti and his partnering instructors helped his students create machines to process and repurpose waste that would otherwise go into the landfill. Titan Plastics is a one-of-a-kind club with a mission to change the environment and reduce waste as we know it. Mr. Van Zanti's passion for promoting STEM reaches outside his school district. He has attended and presented at a number of STEM events over his career, building a network of STEM professionals who have brought diverse experiences in and outside of the classroom. He is constantly working to expand his STEM curriculum and thinking, and that's what makes him an outstanding Iowa STEM teacher. Congratulations, Nathan.
Kids are just highly engaged in every part of the lessons that they do with him. He goes so far beyond what he has to. The prep work that he puts into his lessons is unreal. He is not afraid to reach out to others in the building for help, or even to reach outside of the building for help in making these lessons be all they can be.
He's a really good teacher, and he deserves this a lot.
He teaches us in really cool ways that I think a lot of teachers should apply. It really gets us like into the unit.
Right now we are building some machines to melt down new plastics and to make new molds so we can make new coasters and other products. It's really changed my life. I got to know how to do all these different machine building, wiring, and how to do all this stuff.
We do a lot of demos that he makes. We did this really cool fire piano, and it plugged into his computer, and every time it got a beat, it like shot out fire.
There definitely needs to be a good connection between our education and workforce, and I think STEM is a really good bridge for that. I think everyone loves science, they just maybe just don't quite understand it yet. Getting kids to love science and to love STEM, once they understand all the cool things you can do with it and all the cool problems you can solve, it makes it worth it knowing that you can help them see that. Teaching them that you could be an electrician, a plumber, a CNC mill operator, a CAD designer. Every single unit I teach, there's a lot of careers out there that they can do, and it's just awesome for them to realize all these different jobs they can have. I know this award isn't like just for me, it's for a lot of those other people that have helped me get to where I am today. Thank you, Kemet Industries and the Iowa STEM Governors Advisory Council.
And that's all.
It's so good to hear Nathan making the comments that he is there. But first I want to mention that he was also, the board may have seen in my weekly update last week, I shared a video where the governor actually talked specifically about Nathan and him getting this recognition. So well deserving. And you know, what a real telling, you know, when I go into classrooms, I'm always looking, and every teacher has their own thing that kind of makes them unique, you know. Nathan is one of those teachers that when you go into his classroom, if you ask a question, and this has happened to me on many occasions, if I ask a question, he's probably not going to be the one to answer it. He may start to answer it, but kids will literally get out of their seat and come at me to answer a question. Anything from, you see in the video, the one student getting the critter out of the aquarium. I went in one time, and he has multiple critters in his room, but I went in one time and I asked about one of the critters, and before I could even really get a response, a student had the critter out and putting it in my face and telling me everything I needed to know and more. But the point that he says there is so important when he mentions that the idea of not really understanding that it's science. I'll bet all of us in this room can relate to the fact that when we walked into certain classes in our formal years, we prejudged them by what they were called and maybe by what we thought about that subject already. And Nathan is the kind of teacher that gets kids well beyond that for them to understand the applications to life and the applications, you know, the mechanics of things that will get kids interested. And I think that's why the award was so appropriately fitting for him and his style. Not to mention he's a very humble young man and just does a great job in the classroom. So kudos to Nathan. Very appropriate award for him.
Yes, congratulations to him. And it's appropriate for it to start in middle school because then the kids realize what kind of jobs and things out there because, you know, you have 4 more years before you graduate and sometimes, you know, it takes a little bit to figure out what you're going to do.
You know, if I can mention one more thing based on what you just said that is kind of exciting. You heard Nathan mention CNC milling, and you probably recall the grant application for that milling machine for the Plastics Club, which is a great precursor to the fact that our soon-to-be CTE extension building is going to include a state-of-the-art milling machine at the high school level. Jeff Krabinoff is just beside himself. He's walking 3 feet off the ground. He's got a new story to tell me every day about what that's going to mean to students, and it's just, I think for those of us who were through the wave of industrial technology and kind of the old applicable pieces to it, and to see, you know, then it got totally away into the CAD concept and everything else, and now it's coming back to that new version of what was so applicable about what we used to learn, but in modern technology. So what Nathan's doing is so going to prepare and set up kids that get excited to then have that opportunity to learn even more when they get to the high school year. So it's a cool thing that's happening.
Yes, congratulations to him, for
Yeah.
sure. Anyone else, commendation and good news?
Clash is this weekend. It's been a huge undertaking to change things up to make sure that it's safe for our kids and our visitors, but we think we have a good plan in place, and so we've got 11 high school groups coming to join us on Saturday, and so fingers crossed.
And very different from what I
Very
understand as far
different.
as how things are spread out and much more utilizing the whole building.
We did
and-
it, we have 2 different venues. We're using the gym and the auditorium. We have 4 groups per session, and when there is one on the stage, there's 3 groups in the audience. They're all spread out. The only parents who can come in are parents of the kids who are on stage at the time, and then we're cleaning everything out, spraying it down, wiping it down. So each group has their own hallway in the building. I mean, it's a lot different from years past, but it gives these kids a performance opportunity that they didn't get a lot of this year. So we're very excited, and we've put a lot of thought into making sure that it's done safely.
Yeah, and kudos to Floyd,
Absolutely.
our building lead down there, and his crew, as they've worked hard. I know he's been thinking through the applications of the building,
Yep.
and he's the kind of guy to say, okay, what are you doing? And then figure out how the
Yep.
cleaning and all that gets done. So
We
they've
could not
yeoman's
do
work.
it without Floyd
Yeah,
and his crew. So lots of back-end help.
yeah.
But I'm excited for the kids, and I'm glad we get to do it for them, and I look forward to one more year in that auditorium and then moving the show,
Yeah.
so.
Absolutely, we all do.
Okay, thank you. We'll go on to consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve?
Second.
Do we have an updated personnel sheet?
We do. The items A, B, and C are new to the sheet since it was sent.
Is there any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Wyland?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffield?
Yes. Reports. We
So,
have- Yep, 601 COVID update.
Yeah, just our every board meeting COVID update, which is pretty much resolved to just be a catch-up on what the numbers are, what the latest numbers are. And as the board knows, I report to you every Friday on those numbers. Not a whole lot has changed over the weekend, but for the public and those listening in, the trajectory and all the things that I track daily remains good. I would call things, for the most part, a little more of a plateau than a continued decline, except for the county positivity rate and the state positivity rate are somewhat plateaued, but they tend to slowly, ebb and flow and still continue to slowly get down. Today, the county positivity rate was at 5.2%. That's, again, even 5.2% in July or August would have scared us. But compared to where we were, that's exciting to know that we're remaining in those fives. And we kind of fluctuated with that last year. We were down to 5.1, we were up to 5.3, today we're 5.2. We remain, our in-house numbers are staying below 10, meaning positive cases of both students and staff members total, below 10. In fact, we are currently at 5, and we've been, again, kind of plateauing on those numbers under 10 for a number of weeks now. The one thing that I'm keeping an eye on, that I'm not too alarmed about, but is our day-to-day, I track the number of students we have in quarantine, which means students that have been exposed. Most often, that's exposed outside of school. Sometimes it is an exposure in school. Reminder that we've done that and we continue to do that because it's been very effective. It's not fun to inform parents that their kids have to stay home from school, and it's problematic in many ways. But it's one of those mitigation efforts that we think has helped us maintain school. So we got that down at the beginning of February, district-wide as low as 10. We were at one time as low as 10. Now, to compare that, in November, in the height of our concerning times when we were somewhat hanging on by a thread to keep things open and running, our number of quarantine students were up around 230. So that gives you a comparison. But now we've inched back up into the 40s. We've kind of went from that 10 early in February, and we've kind of inched back up. What does it mean? Well, it's good news that it doesn't coincide with more kids getting COVID in our school district. It's also good news that it doesn't coincide with the county positivity rates going up. So it's precautionary for us to continue when we're aware of an exposure, or if we've got a positive and kids ate lunch with them and sat there without masks for more than 15 minutes, we're going to take the safety route and do the quarantine. So if that, along with other numbers that I just mentioned, were trending up, I think we would have something to worry about. Right now, it's just something to watch. And it actually dropped today by a couple. So that's a good sign that maybe that's going to head back in the right direction. So other than that, we're staying the course, and I think effectively so. We could possibly end this week, depending if we have some new positives. We could end this week with a total of 3 district-wide based on the numbers and the dates, and depending on what we find over spring break, we could start up after spring break at 0. Now, of course, then we have to see what happened on spring break to maybe cause things to start jumping a little bit later. But right now, I think things are maintaining, and we feel pretty good about it, and we'll continue to monitor. We won't let our guard down. I don't think the board wants me to let the guard down. I definitely haven't heard that from our board, and I occasionally do have parents that want us to change mitigation effort, and sometimes they say that they're going to contact the board, and I, of course, always welcome public, parents and community members that are always welcome to do that, but I also assure them that I'm very much in touch with the board, and if I were feeling a directive to change our protocols, that we would be doing so. But I think we're in lockstep with that. So day at a time, we'll keep moving forward.
Absolutely. Okay. We'll go on to discussion items 7.01, second group 400 series policy reviews, updates, and IASB alignments on the second read.
Yeah, I wanted to, I didn't have many questions from last time, but I wanted to clarify or just add a little more to two policies. One, last time, and Mr. Stauffer's not here, but he had asked a question about the use of school facilities, policy 401.14, which is actually a policy we're keeping. It's a policy that has been in place, and I think more so after I had a better understanding of what he was asking, he was wanting to make sure that we were in line with our own existing policy. I've researched that. I've talked a lot with Jim Dermody about that, and we definitely think that we are. Any use of facilities by our employees is related to their extracurricular activities or their curricular activities, or in some cases, we do have staff that are connected to organizations outside that use our facilities, so it's not necessarily the staff who are contracting the facilities, if you will, but they're associated with groups that are, and that's okay with the policy. The other thing is any camps that we have that coaches are running themselves, all that money funnels into the school's coffers, into the activities, not into them in any way, shape, or form, or no added costs. So wanted to clarify, I think it was a very appropriate question by Mr. Stauffer. I think he just wanted to make sure that, you know, the way that read, even though it's not a new policy, that's one that's just staying constant, just to make sure that that is correct. The other one I wanted to mention is Ms. Scheffel had just asked me previously about a lot of times when I present these to you, when you see a deleted policy, you'll see like a deleted LC policy, very next policy, you'll see an ad on an IASB policy. It's not always the case. It's most often the case. She noticed in one here on policy 401.2, public complaints about employees, that it does not have an ad after that. So her question was, to me was, where is that covered? And so I went and did some quick research to get my mind back in on these with my notes and everything. And it was already covered when we were doing the 200 series. And just to be clear, I'm so glad you brought this up, because this is a great example of why we are doing this. Here we were using this policy and just trucking along with it, and IASB actually rescinded this policy because of a federal court decision. So our policy really wasn't in line with something that the federal courts had decided, and we were still moving along with that policy in our policy book. So that's what, it's almost a feel-good moment that's what this year-plus long review and adjustment is going to do. But that already was covered. We could rescind it because in the 200 series, there were actually 3 policies. There was 213.1 was a public complaint policy from IASB that we approved. There also was 213 was public participation in board meetings, and then 214 were public hearings, and those kind of all cross there a little bit. But just to point out that those were covered in earlier policies, and that's why there's not a direct ad right after, because it was in an earlier group.
Okay.
So, and I did not have any other questions about the second read on these policies. I mean, I didn't receive any others.
Right. Does anyone have anything to say about any of the policies on the second read? Everyone good on that? Okay. And I do want to, was there any comments and suggestions, because I omitted that before the consent agenda as part of our agenda. So anyone online have anything? Okay. I just want to make sure we give everyone a chance to address the board if need be, or if they want to. All right, we'll go on to 7.02, 402 series policy reviews, updates, and IASB alignments on the first read.
So this just continues with our 402 series. This will actually wrap up the 402s, and 403, 404, and 405 are all minimal. They will probably come as a lump in the next group, but this will wrap up with 402s. As often is the case, there's nothing of real significance in changes here. This is primarily relative to updating legal references, renumbering, and just making sure things are correct in the verbiage and the wording with current statute and such. So no real significant changes. A lot of the policies here we're keeping and renumbering. Others, similar to what we just discussed, were it's easier to just adapt the new policy, even though they're very, very similar and often just like our policies. So nothing significant in changes for this. And it is a first read, so they have to come through again, and clearly, even after tonight, the board can provide any questions for me to make sure that we're clear on any concerns or any clarifications that are needed.
Did anyone have anything to ask about or anything with the policies on the first read? Okay. If you do think of something or when reviewing, let Dr. Knos know. And then we can have that information for our next meeting. All right. We only had those 2 items for discussion items, so comments and suggestions. The second time during our meeting, anyone can address the board. Is there any, no one made comments online. So we'll go on to action items, 9.01, second group 400 series policy reviews, updates, and IASB alignments on the second read.
Madam Chairman,
Mr. Hendricks.
I'd like to make a motion the board approve presented policies in the 401, 402, 403, 406, 409, 415, 16, and 17, and 18 series and all accompanying regulations and exhibits on their second reading.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Wyledge?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes. 9.02, 402 series policy reviews, updates, and IASB alignments on the first read.
Madam Chairwoman,
Who said that? I didn't. I was going to say that confused me.
I'd like to make a motion to approve policies 402, 405, 408 series and accompanying regulations exhibits on the first reading.
Second.
Any discussion on policies on the first read? Vote, please.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Wyledge?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes. Items of interest for future board meetings. Our next meeting will be March 22nd.
Well, and just for a
Did
little bit
you?
of discussion.
Yes.
I had shared with the board on the weekly update last week that that's a proposal. I didn't hear back from anybody, but clearly we can discuss that now. We have a, one way or the other, we have a 3-week gap between our board meetings. And I think actually the board meetings were selected before we updated the calendar. And with spring break, if we keep it the way it is on the 15th, we will have a board meeting the Monday right after spring break. It's doable. It's not impossible to do, but there are, to be painfully honest, there's a number of us that are vacationing, meaning not working, not necessarily going to tropical places or anything like that, but I'm not. But and also office staff, support staff. So it would definitely be more convenient for the calendar the way it is to move that to the 22nd, and then that would still leave 2 weeks between the 22nd and then our first April meeting. So that was the proposal that I floated in the weekly update, and provided there's no objection to that and we can have a quorum, that would be my recommendation, that we would go with that if the board's okay with it.
Works for me.
So then it would be March 22nd.
March 22nd, as stated here.
Okay.
Start time at 6:30, unless otherwise suggested by the board, and yeah, that would work really well.
Okay, I know I have no problem. Anyone have any conflict? All
If
right.
you're going somewhere tropical, you take me with you.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say.
Yeah. Well, I will be in St. Louis for a few days,
That's
if
not
you want to
tropical
call that.
enough for me. Sorry.
Yeah.
There's a river there as well.
I'm thinking more white sand. Yeah, something like that. Okay, then we'll go ahead with the March 22nd meeting. Anything else? All right, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second. I don't know who got.
Pick them. All in favor, say aye.